If you have not played up to the end of Act 1 of Expedition 33, this video is not for you. Please do not watch it. I will be going into spoiler territory for Act 1, and this game is really rich if you don't let yourself be spoiled. So please, if you have any if you have any interest in playing Expedition 33 and you haven't made it past Act 1 yet, do not continue watching this. And for the rest of you, let's get into it. Welcome back, Classy Crew, to a journal series of Expedition 33. I was not expecting to document my journey playing this game after I did my first impression video, but after finishing Act 1 literally 20 minutes ago, I'm fresh off feeling things and going, WTF, you did what? The game is just... I couldn't have even imagined they would have done that, and I'm so hesitant to say it out loud. But they did that dirty deed to Gustav. Like, come on. The game is literally like, you like this character? I'm like, yeah, I really like this character. And they're like, you like this character, right? You said you like these characters? Yeah, this one's good. What about if we just go clunk and just kill off that character? And I'm just like, oh, that can't be it. He must be alive. But they're like, nope, let's shoot him. Let's stab him. Let's show you he's dead. And let's show you how they mourn, which just has me going, no, there's got to be a revival. They wouldn't build so much hype around this character just to kill him off, right? But then I think of Ned Stark from Game of Thrones, and I'm like, maybe the writers are like that. Maybe they're, I don't know. So right now I'm at a point, and don't you guys spoil what happens next to me in the comments. I do not want to know what goes on in Act 2 and Act 3, because at this point I'm like, okay, either the narrative designers are committing to this, which is huge, really big, or we're gonna get a revival in Act 3 because of something. Because the world right now, we're learning more about it, and the rules are changing. We're seeing old people that are living beyond the Gamage, people who have gone on expeditions are now immortal. There's some really weird things going on, and I really don't know what to expect about anything. Like, oh, okay, let's just like dissect the end scene. So we're going to go through my entire experience. I'm just really rattled right now from the story. I'm going to share with you my gameplay. Like, if you're coming in fresh into this video, I made a first impressions video of playing the first 4 hours of Expedition 33, and that was very spoiler free because I just wanted to share how this game was impacting me initially. I'm going to pick up from where I left off with those first impressions and really dig deep. The last video ended with me meeting Mael and pretty much adding her to my team, but I haven't played with her so much. Since then, I've finished Act 1. I've really learned the mechanics of the game a lot more. But let's just end on this end of Act 1, which we finally get the name for the old man who killed everybody at the beach, whose name is Renoir. And who's this bastard he was part of the first expedition, Expedition 0, and he has some kind of deal going on with the Paintress where he lives forever, and so that's why he's killing the expeditioners. But why does he want to live forever if he's alone? And who's this decaying lady with him? And what's his relationship with Mael? So I'm suspecting, and the guy's going on about his family, just like he just wants to kill everybody so he can be with his family again. Mael seems like the most important character to this story. And I was going to say this before I even saw what happened at the end of Act 1, because she's getting these nightmares. They're doing this foreshadowing of, I think it's the end of the game. I wouldn't be surprised if she was tied to what happened 100 years ago at the start of the whole thing, of whatever happened to this world. She's clearly tied to the old man and to the old lady, and maybe to the Paintress somehow. And then we got introduced to this guy, this, a little bit more daddy vibes, Virgo, who's like, oh, don't worry, get over Gustav. You now have an older, more charming guy called Virgo, who's even more friends with the best character, Esquier, which we're going to get into in a moment. So I'm just like, I'm sorry that I'm coming out so raw and so sporadic, but I really wanted to capture my initial thoughts of literally stop playing the game, go talk to the camera, because I got my shock moment after the prologue, which devastated me, and I was getting over it. The game brought me into a lull of comfort and safety, and they were adding more comedic beats and camaraderie, and I was going off last video about how I love the characters and their interactions, and they just said, time to pull it away from you. You're having a good time. You know, you met these little brush guys in their village. We got happy music. We met a mon ami Esquier and his buddy Francois, and like everything was getting charming. And then they're just like, boom, let's take a character out and let's get you back. Let's reset your emotions. And I wonder if Act 2 is going to be the same thing, where I suspect Act 2 is going to be really fleshing out Virgo's character, understanding what happened to his life, understanding the world from a different perspective. And we're probably going to lean more on the Esquier relationship for like the light humor, only for Act 2 probably to end on another dark note. Holy jeez, that's just a lot of emotions. Okay, so let's try to step it back to when I met Maëlle and what I was feeling when we actually met her and the relationship that was being developed between Gustave and her. And I have to say, I was really trying to understand, what is their relationship? Is it a big brother and a younger sister? I really don't like thinking that there are romantic undertones between the two, because the age gap is significant. And I think it would be a little creepy if there was a romantic undertone to the two. But sometimes I feel that there is a little bit of tension, romantic tension, which feels weird. But at the same time, I'm feeling that with Gustave and all the other characters except Lume. There is like maybe zero tension with Lume. But the other expeditioner that we got introduced to, Ciel, or I think that's her name. That girl, she is flirty as heck. Like, there is definitely some flirty undertones there. And then the other relationship with Gustave and Maëlle could also be like a paternal one. All of their interactions, I could really like categorize either as a very paternal one, older brother, and hopefully not on the romantic side, because that's the one that's weird. But it was really like, and the reason I'm thinking like the romantic thing is just because Gustave is very like obsessed with her, obsessed with protecting her, which, you know, fits also a paternal figure and an older brother figure. So I really do think that it's more that, but the way that they showed that relationship developing was probably intentional to make you feel even more at the end of Act 1. And it also kind of positions Maëlle as a more, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I don't know if it's Maëlle. It does seem to show that there's a lot more importance on her. So after that, and you know, we get introduced to her in this mansion, which that mansion I did not think would have any kind of meaning to the story. But in the village of the Gestrels, which is the section you come into next, I found a door that brings me back to the mansion, and you're in a kitchen. And I found the traps that opens the trap door, and you can like investigate and explore. And then I found another door to this mansion somewhere else. I forget where it was. So this mansion keeps coming back, and you're opening up all these rooms, which I'm like, okay, I like this mechanic of the game. I want to open up all the rooms. Like it's a weird collectathon kind of mechanic. Love that. And then the Gestrels, you know, the Gestrels or Gestrels? Probably Gestrels. They remind me of the Mughals for Final Fantasy, or the Koroks, Legend of Zelda, like mythical woodland creatures. And I love how they got them to talk in part gibberish, part words you understand. And the fact that they called their armors that they're building sac à patates, which is basically a French word for sack of potatoes. Just love everything about these characters, the village, the charm that's oozing from them, that they're like, they just want to trade, but also they just want to fight. They're like, we'll trade with you, but I want to fight you too. And everybody's up for a fight. And I literally just went around the village talking to everyone. I found the one that's in a burning house saying, oh, this is fine. And I love the mechanic too of fighting to unlock a hidden item from the traders, so you can, you know, pick your items, but then if you want to have the secret item. I just love this reoccurring theme of this game, that whatever you do, whatever you invest your time in, you get rewarded. You go off the beaten path, you will get a reward for sure. You fight this enemy, you will get a reward for sure. Everything rewards you, and it is so good to feel that in an RPG. How many times do you remember, like in the old days of turn-based RPGs, where you would be stuck in a cave, you want to explore the cave, but you keep triggering these random encounters, which just gets you frustrated because you're like, I don't want to fight, I want to explore. This game is literally every optional fight rewards you, and I love that. It's like I just throw myself at all the optional bosses, even if I can't beat them. Speaking of which, they pointed out to this like long, lanky giant at one point called I think they're called the Bourgeons, probably. And they're like, yeah, stay clear of that. I'm like, oh, that looks rough. And I decided to go at it anyways. I'm like, let's do it. Let's try the first one. I've been killing everything so far. And I really leaned hard into a burning strategy. So I was just stacking burns on him and at this point I realized I didn't actually know how to play with Maëlle properly. I learned later on how to actually do damage with her. So I was just stacking, burning. And at the end I had two-thirds of my party was eaten, and I managed to finish, to kill it off. So that was super rewarding. I'm also getting the sense that later on the game gives you an incentive to go back, because I'm realizing that there are these blockers in the field that won't let me get through, and they look like breakable objects. And I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to come here later on in the game. And then also discovering that with Esquier, he opens up new areas of the game for you. And it looks like he's something that you can level up with new abilities. So at the end of Act 1, I got the stone, which lets him swim. He has already teased that he can fly. And there's something with a friendship level with Esquier, which I'm like, what is that about? What is that going to unlock? So I'm really, really loving all of this stuff. Also loving the password that you had to get from the Gestrels to get to Esquier, and then just having Gustave yell, "Get out of my way," for everybody to go like, well, that was rude. He's like, it's a password. He's like, well, the guy never told me the password. Like, this game is making me laugh out loud by myself. I just love everything about it. The introduction to Esquier was hilarious. Love him. Love how he's like calling everybody mon ami, and how he set up Francois was so perfect. How he's like, oh, my arch enemy, you have to find him. And Gustave's like, oh, I assume this is like in the nest of monsters. He's like, no, he's just right next door. He's Francois. And he's just basically a really grumpy turtle. And like the dynamic between those two guys of just yelling at each other from their own caves, like, again, was just laughing through the whole thing. And later on, learning that Esquier actually refers to Francois as Fran. I'm just like, oh, I could watch a whole like sitcom of Esquier and Francois. These two are fantastic. So that's kind of been my narrative journey. I wanted to share more things that I discovered in the game that I didn't know about when I did my last video. So I discovered the mimes, which that is a fun mechanic. And it also taught me about the break mechanic in fights. I'm like, oh, geez, I'm not doing any damage. The music is really funny here. Like, it's very comical. So I'm like, this is probably one of those goofy fights that is hard, but rewards you with something cool. And I was right, because it rewards you with cosmetics. And I love that. Unfortunately, a lot of the cosmetics just pull me out of the vibe, like, you know, having the full French attire. I'm just like, no, that doesn't fit. So for the most part, and I also got the sac à patate attire, which I'm like, nah, that looks so dumb. So I've been playing mostly with the haircuts of my characters, but I've been keeping them in their expedition gear because I really love that design. Going to another major element that I did not know in my last video that I think is really interesting is the camp mechanics. I finally learned how to access the camp where I now know what I can upgrade. I can upgrade my weapons. There's like Lost Gestrels too, which is a whole other like little collectathon mechanic, which I love. You can interact with your companions, get more story and cutscenes. Love all of that. And then the Picto mechanics, I finally appreciated and understood what it was. That and the Lumina points, which I had no idea what it was. And I don't think the game did a great job at explaining what Lumina points was, because I actually had to look that one up. I was looking at everything that was telling me on screen. I'm like, I don't understand what this is. So what I've learned is the Pictos, which are basically like the abilities that you pick up in the field and stuff. If you have them equipped for 4 fights, you have the ability to basically learn the one of its specific traits, a passive trait. And then later on, you can use your Lumina points for each character to use anything you've learned from your Pictos to basically stack a bunch of passive abilities. And I'm just like, holy geez, this really changes the strategic nature of this game, and it adds so much more depth to it. So now I'm switching out my Pictos, grinding them out so I can have a larger pool of passive abilities that I can actually like equip. So like, for example, there was one Picto I loved because every time I attacked, it healed my character. And so I'm like, well, now this is leveled up, which means I can give that passive ability to all my characters. And I can just already see when I get to endgame, like optimizing is going to become really cool in how different builds you can make. Another thing I learned is how to actually play with these characters and their skills in a more optimal way. So with Maëlle, for example, she is focused on 3 stances, your offensive, defensive, and virtuous stance. And I've basically learned and built her so that I can get into virtuous stance pretty much by turn 1 or turn 2. and she unleashes a ridiculous amount of damage. So right now at about level 19, which is where my characters are at, my other two characters can deal like big damage of 500 to 1000 hit points of damage. When I'm actually using Mael with her Virtuo stance and using one of her specials, I can dish out 12,000 points of damage, which is crazy in comparison. So what I do is basically there's an ability that she has which lets you go into Virtuo stance if you hit an enemy that's burning. And so I always set up Lume to be burning an enemy, and then Mael goes into Virtuo stance right away. That sets her up for pretty much being able to go out and do a 200% damage on the next one. Or I've just learned another ability which lets her basically like stack AP points and keep her current stance. So like if I need to stay in Virtuous another turn for whatever reason, because maybe I had to shoot things, it keeps that buff and it gives me more AP points, so I can unleash her like super, which is like a 6-point attack. I forget what it's called, but it's a virtuous attack that just destroys everything. Lume, I'm also realizing I haven't been playing her very well, because you want to be setting up your basically your magic buffs, whatever they are, so that you can consume those resources and do more damage. So I'm trying to use and rotate through my magic a little bit more, also making sure that all my characters have an ability that lets them break enemy stances, which is another mechanic I didn't really appreciate until recently. Well, with the mime, where I learned, oh, I need to break these enemies to do more damage to them. So all of that has just been fantastic. And then Gustav, I think he's pretty straightforward. And I was also looking at his skill tree. I'm like, why is he the only one with his skill tree like shut off for half the stuff? And well, now I know. So that's another reason I suspect he's going to come back, because why would they give him a skill tree that you can see there's more? If that's the reason I really think he's going to come back, is because of the skill tree. Like, I feel if the game really wanted you to feel like he was dead, they would have shown you his whole skill tree, and then they would have let you believe that you can fill it, and then they just kill him off. And then the final boss of Act 1, which is the Lamp Master. Proper ending to a final boss. It's the first time we get a boss that has a second phase to it. And honestly, I struggled the first time fighting it because I didn't really know I had to shoot all the lamps. I picked up like halfway into the fight that I have to shoot that. So I was taking a lot of damage. And you know, when you finish the fight, you got Mael who's like, well, that was easy. Setting it up for phase 2, and I was like, no, that wasn't easy at all. No, I'm not ready for phase 2. And then of course I wasn't paying attention when he was lighting up his lamp, so I didn't know that you had to shoot them in a certain order. So he was unleashing a lot of damage on me. When I went back against the Lamp Master, it was so much easier. I just kept his lanterns like blasted, did some damage on him. He's weak to fire, so I just burnt him. Phase 2 came. I was actually properly memorizing the lamp pattern, so he couldn't do his ultimates, and it was just way easier. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention is I think it's called a Goblu, the big round boy that started fighting you when you picked a flower, and you got these flashbacks to Sophie. Made me wonder, what if Goblu, I think that's his name, is Sophie? What if the humans die and become these monsters? Kind of like, well, I don't want to spoil another series, but I found that weird that they showed something there between touching the flower, which reminded Gustav of Sophie, and the reaction of Goblu, and the fact that Goblu ran away tells me that there is something in this world. There's definitely a lot more to this world that we just don't know. And I'm so curious to find out what's going on. Like, what happened to Expedition Zero? Where are all these monsters coming from? Why is the paintress painting monsters? Why are some more peaceful than others? Just so many questions. And I love what this game is making me feel and going through. But man, if they kill my Lume in Act 2, like, geez, I'm just gonna be really torn. So that's where I'm at. I will make another journal at the end of Act 2 and another final journal at the end of Act 3, assuming there's not much more endgame content to talk about. If there is, then I'll make one final one after that. And hopefully I see you on the next journal, and hopefully you're playing this game and I did not just spoil all of Act 1 for you. So until next time, I will see you. I don't stream this game. I play it offline, so I'll see you in the next video. And until next time, keep it classy.